think that a lot of Magnum photographers have had a strong personal element in their photographs. What may be different is that we have different personalities. Sometimes I think maybe people think I'm old-fashioned or some of the younger photographers. I'm not looking to create a new way of photographing. I want to make my objects, and I don't see any reason to change the way since this is what I really like to do.
So, welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Eyeshot 50 millimeters. And today we're sitting down with Richard Kalvar, one of the great and most iconic and ironic voices in contemporary photography. A long-standing member of Magnum, his photography has been widely recognized for its absurdity, surrealism as well, in a way, but especially for its very human side of humanity in that sense. So welcome, Richard, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Richard, for being with us. Welcome. And I want to leave, before we start, a little message to all of our viewers to keep watching, keep subscribing, keep commenting, and keep supporting Eyeshot, because what's just one small click to you means the world for us. Keep supporting independent street photography, independent made in Italy arts and craftsmanship, and art in general. Welcome again, Richard. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard. So let's just dive deep into the very first question. What we want to know from you immediately is, who is Richard Kalvar according to Richard Kalvar?
Well, he's an American who's lived in Paris for a long time, who dropped into photography by accident, who didn't know anything about it before he got into it, and who found his way in photography, found a very satisfying way of expressing himself by chance through photography, and is very happy with it.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about the very first moment or memory you have of yourself encountering photography? How did you make you feel, and what did happen?
Well, okay. When I was a child, we had a little Kodak Brownie camera, which I never used. My parents, particularly when I was a baby, took a lot of pictures, and it kind of it was forgotten. Didn't really look at photographs. Occasionally, I would see photographs in a magazine and so on, and it didn't really call me to, it didn't really interest me particularly. And I went to university, and before the end, I was a less and less good student, and I realized that I wasn't going to make it. So before they could throw me out, I decided to quit. I took a leave of absence, which was relatively easy back then in the late 1960s. I went back to New York, and I had to get a job. So I looking around for different things, anything, driving a taxi, working in a restaurant. And I had dinner with a couple of friends, a couple, and the guy said, well, if you're looking for a job, I worked for a French fashion photographer, and he changes assistants all the time. And I had a fight with him, so I left. And then I think he's had 3 other assistants since then. That was about 2 months ago. And I think he's looking for someone now. And you should just go to see him. And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then he said, no, well, no, it's not a good idea because he's very difficult to work with. But I went to see the guy anyway, and he hired me. I have no idea why. His name was Jerome Ducrot. And it was fashion photography. So I thought, well, that's kind of artistic, good-looking women. Why not? And so I did that, and I learned how to use cameras and prepare them, and prepare the studio lighting, and do all kinds of stuff like that. And I tried it myself, but I was not very. I just didn't understand, and I didn't really like it. I didn't understand it, but Ducrot was very generous, and he let me use his cameras, which I used. I tried to do fashion pictures, but not very well. But I would take the camera sometimes and walk around the street, just take a look around, see what I could, what would happen. And I started getting interested in taking pictures. So that was really my introduction.
Your very first encounter with photography, you would
Well,
say.
my first encounter with photography that interested me. The
They
fashion
interested you.
photography didn't interest me, but the walking around the streets started to interest me.
Yeah, being around, being with the people. Okay, that's very interesting. My next question would be, you were born in Brooklyn, right? And photographed New York, but now you live in Paris.
Finally left New York in 1970, so that was only a couple of years.
Okay.
Then I was in Paris for a number of years. Then I went back to New York for a while, and I bouncing back and forth.
Okay. And is there any, let's say, an American lesson in the way you shoot, in reference also to Calvino and his book? Is there any American lesson that you've learned that you have put in your photography?
Okay, well, so I'm not sure I see the American connection, but I do see the irony connection. I guess I was kind of an ironic kid when I was growing up. I mean, I used to play with my friends and get into philosophical discussions, and things often veer toward the humorous and so on. And I wound up doing the same thing in photography, and I didn't do it on purpose. I just started taking pictures, and I didn't know what kind of pictures I was taking, and I discovered by looking at the pictures that I had taken that in fact it was the old ironic me coming out unintentionally. So
That's very,
uh,
very
there's,
interesting.
there's
Yeah.
definitely a connection.
A connection, maybe like a subconscious connection that you carry with you since that day. That's interesting that you said.
Yeah, you have things in you and your personality, and sometimes they come out in the most unexpected ways.
That's true. That's very, very true. And was there a moment in your career when photography, let's say, stopped being a tool in a way and became a way of being in the world for you?
Yeah, well, I would say that I had the good fortune to grow up at that particular time.
Mm.
I wasn't aware of it at the time, but there was money around. You didn't have to worry about getting a job, because you could always get a job. I mean, and now I don't think people think that way, unfortunately. But there's certain uh, insouciance, lack of worry about things like that. And so I wasn't immediately interested in making a job of it, making a living out of it. So from the very beginning, I was more interested in the pleasure of photographing side than I was in the making money side. Well, when I wound up working for a year or almost a year for the Ducrot. I left him because I thought, I was 20 years old, and I wanted to see the world a little bit, and I saved up a little bit of money, and I went to Europe, and I spent almost a year in Europe, and that's when I became a photographer. At the beginning of the trip, I almost didn't bring a camera along. The camera was a camera that he gave me as a going away present. And I bought a couple of lenses, and I didn't really have room to put it in my bag. But I pushed a little harder, and then I finally got it in, and I took the camera, and that changed my life. Because I was traveling around Western Europe. I wound up in Morocco also, but at first I was just carrying the camera because why not? and little by little, I started seeing things that were kind of interesting. That I started taking pictures, and then I would take more pictures. Then I go to the next country, and I take even more pictures, and get into it more. I started to understand what I was doing, and by the time I was finished, I I knew I was a photographer. That was it. That was it. That's what I wanted to do. Before I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do, but then so I went back to New York. I wound up going back to university. I managed to finish up painfully, and then I was an adult photographer. So I had to try to make a living because I had to live. Then so that part became important, but it was always less important than the pleasure of taking interesting photographs. And
Okay.
I would say, I mean, I've made a living. Now it's more and more difficult, but doing professional work, working for other people, and so on. But the thing that always interested me the most was my pictures.
And the way you see the world. Thank you, Richard. I think that was a great dive deep in. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Eh,
If I may, I wanted to ask you. You have met so many photographers, and among the ones that inspired you the most, who's the photographer who taught you about being yourself?
It wasn't necessarily photographers that I met.
Hmm.
It was photographers whose work I saw.
Hmm.
Um, So the people that I was really interested in at the beginning, and I'm not the only one, were Cartier-Bresson, Robert Frank, and then a couple of younger photographers like Lee Friedlander, Diane Arbus, and that's what really woke me up. I was very influenced by the Americans, by Robert Frank,
Hmm.
as were a lot of photographers. I mean, to me, because when I was growing up, I said that didn't. I wasn't really interested in photography, but I did see pictures here and there, in a magazine and so on. And I remember seeing pictures in Life magazine and of pictures about America, and then next to the picture there's a big paragraph long explanation, caption. It's telling you what was going on in the picture.
Hmm.
And I felt that, they were kind of imposing a way of seeing on you. You
Hmm.
couldn't just look at the picture. You had to get this official American point of view about, whatever it was, and that really put me off. And then when I discovered people like Frank and Cartier-Bresson, I saw that no, you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want.
Hmm.
That's the thing that freed me. I didn't want to take the same pictures as Cartier-Bresson. I didn't want to take the same pictures as Frank or the others. What I understood was I could take any pictures I wanted, and it was from seeing their pictures that I understood that.
Okay.
Okay. And since you have just talked about, photographing whatever you wanted, what does a photo say, according to you, when it doesn't explain anything?
Okay, well, there's already the problem of explanation. I mean, is that what a photographer is supposed to do? I mean, well, yes. I mean, if someone's paying you to take a picture, they want you to explain something or show it or whatever. But there's a fundamental limitation in photography. I mean, I became sensitive to that immediately. There's a contradiction in photography. Um, it's that you think that you're looking at reality when you're looking at a photograph, but
Mm.
it's not. It was produced in reality. You've taken a tiny little moment in reality. You've cut it off. Right, you have a rectangle, so everything outside the rectangle doesn't exist. Whereas in real life, there's something on the left, there's something on the right, there's something on top, bottom, behind you, in front of you. Here in photography, no, it's just what's there in the rectangle. and it doesn't move.
Mm.
You know, it's
True.
well, I mean, it's also like painting had been for thousands of years. But the difference with painting is that you pressed on a button, and it was it was a mechanical method of getting the truth. But but still, it wasn't. It was not the truth. It was something that looked like the truth. And that's always the thing that's interested me and still interests me. It's the feeling that you have a scene, you have a photograph of a scene, and it looks like something. Now it could look like sort of the thing that was really going on, but it's obviously very different because the thing that was going on was very complex and rich, and there were different people with different feelings and different actions and so on, and everything in the photograph is stopped and flat. You could also get the impression, looking at the photograph, that it's something else. I'm not even sure at the beginning whether it was conscious on my part, but it was quickly what I was really interested in. I wanted to get these rectangles where there was something going on that wasn't necessarily what was, in quotes, really going on.
Yeah.
It looked like something,
Mm.
but it looked like it, but it wasn't. And for me, for me, at least with my photographs, those are the strongest pictures, where you have
Yeah.
the impression that there's something going on, it wasn't really that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to go back to the concept of scene for a bit, because among the things that can be found in your photography, there's farces, mini dramas, and lots of theatrics, so to speak. And what role do you have in this worldwide comedy?
Well, I like to say sometimes that I I I I feel that that I'm taking people as actors in dramas, and they're not aware that they're being actors. So they're working for me for free, uh, and people are doing things, and in particular, they look like they're doing things, and also within the rectangle, because the rectangle is very important. The things that happen in certain part that relate to the things that happen in another part on a
Yeah.
successful picture, which is pretty rare, but okay. Everything has to work out so that you have the impression that that things are going on, and um, this little stage play is happening, but they don't know that they're in it. That's the only
The only
difference.
things.
Yeah. Thank
Love
you.
that.
And
Beautiful definition.
I'm not directing them. I'm not telling them what to do. Other
Course.
people do that. That's kind of against my principles. But I just try to get inspired by what they're doing to make it seem as though they're doing something else.
Love that.
Yeah. Last one for me before I pass it back to you. But I wanted to ask you about how faithful you stayed to black and white in the decades. What does this kind of medium, this kind of aesthetic offer you that color doesn't?
Well, when I started in photography, I was a young guy, and I didn't know very much about it. And I started reading and so on, looking at pictures. And at the time, everyone was doing black and white, and the color didn't really catch on until a little later. Uh, well, and particularly with people like Cartier-Bresson. And Cartier-Bresson had very clear ideas about what you were supposed to do. Not crop your pictures, shoot in black and white, and so on. And I just kind of followed the general movement. That was stupid to do that, right? I mean, no, it wasn't really. But I was a young man. What did I know? And okay, that sounded right. And actually, it turned out that for me it was right. So even though it was, I did it for the wrong reason, which was just to kind of follow what the master said. It was, in my case, it was right. The reason it was right for black and white was that I talk about the difference between the photograph and the reality. And so okay, well, the difference is no movement. The things are closed off. They only exist in a rectangle. Everything else that doesn't exist. Nothing smells. You can't hear anything. No one moves. That's all the difference, and that works for the kind of photography that I'm trying to do. And black and white is also different from reality. So it's a further step of separation between the reality and the appearance of reality, which helps me. I mean, color is a step toward reality. And keeping it in black and white makes it more interesting for me. But that doesn't mean that a lot of people don't do very interesting color photography. But for me, it really worked, and I like to stick with it.
Love that. Love that. I want to just jump
Yeah.
in as well, and in what you guys were saying before, and I want to go back a little bit to the theater and actors discussion that we were having before. As you said, your subjects are unaware and you don't direct them at all. And I wanted to ask you, what is a good cast for you? Then what
Italians,
are your
Italians are great. They're good.
Yeah, they really let themselves. You can see us, right? We
If
can
you're
all
looking for gesture, you're gonna find gesture is something you're gonna find very easily in Italy. So
Yeah, I know. Well, I worked a lot in Italy, but particularly in Rome. I went back almost every year for I don't know 5 or 6 years, and then I've
love
been
that.
back since and so on. So yeah, I particularly enjoyed working and there's a certain I don't know, niceness about people in
Yes,
Italy also. I mean, I understand there's the mafia and
of course.
but
We have all
but
the issues.
but there's a kind of I don't know a joy in living that seems more present in other places. But
Yeah,
you can also take pictures outside of Italy. But
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
that's one good place to find good actors.
Exactly. Okay. And moving on from that, I want to ask you also, apart from the subjects, and we have figured out what kind of subjects, in a way, attracts you. But when you're out in the streets and you're doing a shooting session, are you looking for something that you recognize or something that you've never seen before? In a different way, what attracts your eye?
Things that are a little off. Things that are yeah, they're not quite they're not quite 100% normal. Something a little strange. Now, I mean, generally I start with something very small. So, some small little thing. You know, uh, um, I I've taken a lot of pictures of conversations.
Hmm.
Okay, well, there are a lot of conversations. There are conversations all over. You can uh, spend the day going from one conversation to the next. Most of them are not going to give you very good pictures. But then every once in a while, you get into a conversation and someone does something that looks like something else. And then that gives you an idea. And then you realize that, yeah, if you moved a little bit to your left, then you would see it more with the thing in the background. And, I'm starting off generally from something basically banal,
Hmm.
and then I'm generally it stays banal, and I waste my time for 30 seconds or half an hour trying to make something out of this thing, which generally doesn't work, and then every once in a while it really does work. So it's rare that I start off with something spectacular.
Okay. And what's harder for you in a photograph, to portray pain or irony?
Um, I kind of try to stay away from portraying pain. Because I mean, it's easy to say, well, there's a difference between reality and photograph and so on and so forth. But there's real pain around, and I don't want to be ironic about real pain. So you know, I mean, I've taken pictures where there's real pain, but it's not. I don't. I don't show them in the same place where I'd show them my personal pictures.
Okay, okay. Because yeah, I think irony it's such sometimes it may have that connotation of being something easy to portray, but at the same time, it could be much easier, if you can let me pass this term, to portray pain somehow. Ambiguity, I feel like it's or irony or all the kind of things are a little bit harder to truthfully let them come out of a picture.
Yeah, and but one way of describing what I do is playing. I'm playing
Hmm.
with images, and
Yeah.
I think it would be a little indecent to play with people's pain.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, I have another questions that I really want to ask you as well. Um, and this actually dives a little bit more deep into your book Earthlings, which I'm still looking to find a copy also, Richard. If you have one, please tell me. So you've done Earthlings, and Earthling is a masterpiece of photography, of black and white photography that truly portrays your vision. And what I wanted to ask you is, what was Earthling for 40 years ago, and what is Earthling in your eyes now?
Well, so I started taking pictures in the late '60s,
Hmm.
and then I went on. I took more and more and more, and I had a little black box, and I would make a print and put it in a black box and so on. And little by little, the pile in the box got higher and higher and higher. And I kept on thinking, well, I'm not ready to do something with it. And so I just kind of put it off and put it off and put it off. And it's as though I fell asleep 10 or 20 or 30 years. And finally, around the year 2000, when I was already over 50, um, I thought maybe it's time. So I started playing around with making little prints and trying to put them together and making a flow and so on. And that's what finally produced Earthlings. I learned a lot of things. People helped me. I learned a lot about the idea of a flow in a book and how to do it in a subtle way. So I worked a lot on that, and the whole process took me, I don't know, maybe 4 years, because I had to put the pictures together, decide which ones to use, decide on a layout, and so on. And then I had to find a publisher, which was really not very easy. And I did the book, and I had a show at the Maison Européenne de la Photographie in Paris, the same time with the same photographs. So it was a big thing for me. I mean, it was a kind of retrospective.
Sure.
It wasn't a retrospective in that it's not at all chronological. It's not at all geographically consistent. I mean, I can go from a picture in Tokyo to a picture in Rome, a picture from 1968, a picture from 2002.
Yeah.
It's not a biographical document. It's a work of a series of photographs that are all different and all kind of work together. There's the same thread running through them. So to me, that at the time, I thought this is the definitive statement of my best stuff. Time goes on. I'm still taking pictures, and I'm also looking at some of my older pictures and thinking, well, that one was pretty good. I didn't put it in Earthlings, but so I'm kind of playing with Son of Earthlings. I mean, I won't call it Son of Earthlings, but
Yes. Okay. I'll pass it on to you
Yeah.
if you want to switch gears for a
Yeah.
little bit.
So lots of decisive moments, lots of catching the right instant in photography, especially when you're out on the streets and you have to pay attention to very specific environments, situations, things happening in a moment. If you had to teach someone how to recognize the right moment, where would you start?
a lot of this comes from what's inside of you.
Mm.
So I can't really, I mean, I can teach people to let themselves go. but I can't teach them what to express because they're them and I'm me. As I say, I had the good fortune, I guess, to become the kind of photographer that I was before without being a photographer. It was the same personality coming through. So, I would encourage people to let their personality come through, but maybe they have terrible personalities. I don't know. But as far as specifically what to look for, I mean, I can tell people what I look for. I can't really tell them what to look for, but I can show them, and I do show them when I think that what they've come up with is not great, and how it might be better if it were done differently.
Okay, okay. Thank you for sharing.
Interesting.
And staying on the topic of time, have you ever waited for a moment that didn't happen?
Yeah, very often,
Okay.
very often. I mean, I don't have that many great pictures every year, but I do spend a lot of time taking pictures. I mean, going around trying things, and sometimes you get somewhere. I mean, you know that the picture I have of the guy on the Brooklyn Bridge,
Yeah,
kind
the
of
naked
dancing.
guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at first, I was there to take pictures of boats in the harbor. I mean, someone was paying me to do it, and it turned out that you couldn't see boats in the harbor from the Brooklyn Bridge. So I was, and it was very early in the morning, and then this guy came up to me on a bicycle, asking me if I wanted a naked model.
Hmm.
And I thought, oh God, you can't even come on the bridge at 5 in the morning without being bothered by someone. And then at some point, I know that right. Then I was packing my cameras and so on. And I looked up, and there he was, totally naked, doing yoga and all kinds of funny things. And I thought well, that's crazy. I mean, I'm a photographer, so I went and I started taking pictures. So
Sure.
I wound up taking, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 rolls of pictures, which at the time was a lot. 36 pictures
Yeah,
on a roll.
by 4.
Either trying all kinds of different things, and he was certainly open to it. I mean, we didn't speak. Just he was doing his thing. That one happened to work out.
Yeah.
Now, I could have done the same thing, and I have in my life done the same thing, and it didn't work out. So I take the 3 or 4 rolls of film were now 400 shots or something, and none of them are really good. That happens.
Okay.
Well, that's more frequent than the other one.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the process
Yeah,
as
and
well.
there has to be lots of patience because every photographer that we talk to, no matter the background, shares the thought that photography is patience. So
Absolutely.
that's a given at this point. And last one for me on the topic of time, I would like to ask you, what's the difference between a photo that might work for you in a specific moment and a photo that lasts over time?
Well, I would say that sometimes I take pictures, and I think, hey, that's really pretty good. And then I go back, a few months later. I'm not even talking about 10 years later, but I mean a few months later. And then I say, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's not really good. Admit it. And I have to admit it. So, but sometimes, and some of them, I think, yeah, that one's good. And sometimes, I post pictures on Instagram, so I put up a picture a day.
Yeah.
After 5 years, I allow myself to use the same picture again, but before then, no. So it's quite a few pictures,
Yeah.
and every once in a while, I put up a picture, and then obviously, there's 365 days in a year. 10 years, that's 3,650 pictures. I don't have that many good pictures. So it's a mixed bag. It's very good, so-so, pretty good, interesting, and sometimes I look at the picture, while I'm making the selection and so on, and I think, wow, that's better than I thought. So in this new project, this idea of doing a sequel to to Earthlings,
Thanks.
I'm using a number of pictures that are, as I said earlier, that are old pictures
Mm.
that I'm I've rediscovered them, and I realize now, 50 years later or 40 years later, that they're better than I thought.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
But
for
but
sharing.
they could also be worse than what I thought.
Yeah,
Fair, 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 fair.
thank you.
Okay, Richard, you have been a long-standing member of Magnum. You've published book, you've done workshop, you've been teaching people as well. And one thing I really want to ask you, which I've also read in a couple and heard in a couple of interviews that you've already done, is that you've also wrote about this. You've written about the division between your amateur work and your professional work. You feel like, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're a good professional photographer, but you're a much better amateur photographer. Could you tell me a little bit more about this, and what do you mean by this, and how how would you explain it to the audience? Because it's a very, very interesting concept that I think it will connect with other things later. But let's start from here.
Well, I was being, since I'm an ironic person, I was being a little ironic when I said that. But I said that I'm both an amateur and a professional photographer, and I'm better as an amateur photographer than I am as a professional one. That's because we were talking about it a little before. I have made my living out of photography, which means that I take pictures on assignment. And when you're working on assignment, you kind of have to give the client something that they want. But sometimes, first of all, what they want is your personal pictures. So that's very good as an assignment. And sometimes I'm taking professional pictures, and suddenly I see something, and I'm allowed to stop and turn left and take this other picture, and so on. And so if I go through all my good pictures, I'll find I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's a decent percentage of pictures that I took while I was working on assignment. So, the line between the two is not perfectly rigid. You um, I try to make my professional pictures personal, but okay. So when I've been on assignment, I've had to tell stories often, and okay, I can tell a story. I'm pretty good at it. But I would say that that's not what I'm. There are people who are better at telling a story with a series of pictures. Because I'm mostly interested in the picture and not the series of pictures.
Okay, interesting. Another things I wanted to write you, I wanted to ask you, is still related to your affiliations also with Magnum as well. Within Magnum, we have a lot of different personalities in terms of photographic vision as well, and I feel like yours, not because because of anything, but I feel like it stands out differently from others type of photography and photographic visions. How is your type of photography seen within the community, and how uh, do you think it mixes with the other ones there? You have a different approach. I'll call it street photography, but it's not only street photography. In a way, it's a little bit more vast and mixed. How do they see street photography in that sense?
Well, first of all, there's a tradition in Magnum of there's a photojournalistic tradition. That's clear. But there's from the very beginning there's been a kind of not quite photojournalistic way of photographing. Cartier-Bresson, for example, Elliot Erwitt, a number of people.
Mm,
And some of us do it. There are other photographers that have a lot of irony in their work. people who are completely different from take different pictures. People like Martin Parr, for example,
Sure.
totally different from what I do. But we're both kind of off a little bit. We're not giving the official way of seeing things and so on. It's pretty personal. And I think that a lot of Magnum photographers have had a strong personal element in their photographs. What may be different is that we have different personalities. So now, how I'm seen? Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe people think I'm old-fashioned, or some of the younger photographers. I'm not looking to create a new way of photographing. I want to make my objects, and I don't see any reason to change the way since this is what I really like to do, and it seems that some other people like it also. I don't see why I should change it, but okay, maybe some people
Yeah.
Think
feel
that.
that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Also, within Magnum, you've held also very important roles, apart from being vice president, also of the community and president. How did you manage to shift between your personal vision and, let's say, your editorial organizational responsibilities?
With difficulty.
With difficulty. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
We
mean,
love honest answers.
I said that I went to Italy every year for I first went in 1978, first time
Yeah.
Hmm.
when Pope Paul died. So I went as a professional photographer working for Newsweek,
Wow.
and then while I was there, I fell in love with Rome, and one thing led to another. So I went back in 1960s, 1980, 81, 82. So all the way through 1984. In 1984, I became vice president of the Paris office of Magnum, and that was the end of Italy
Oh,
for 15 years or so.
shame.
Maybe yeah, about 15 years, 20 maybe.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for doing my kind of photography, you have to be kind of free to just kind of let yourself go, and go where you want and so on. And if you have administrative responsibilities, you have to do things.
Mm.
And I had no training to do it, and I had to, we were having difficulties, and I had to handle those difficulties, and it wasn't always easy. And yeah, so that threw me off for a few years.
A little bit. Okay. Okay. One last question, then I'll pass it on
Yeah.
to you. Absolutely. Is it harder to take a good photos or have the courage to show only a few of them?
You mean if you only have a few good pictures,
Yeah.
to not show everything?
Yes.
No, because less is more often. If you show too much, you dilute it. It's better to make it very concentrated. The problem is, what if you only have two good pictures? So if you have a show, what do you,
Yeah.
maybe the answer is you shouldn't have a show when you only have two good pictures. You should wait
So
till you
it's so
have
true.
at least three, or maybe even four.
For a triptych, yeah, it's
Yeah.
three.
We love
Absolutely.
triptychs.
Okay. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Richard.
Okay, I just mean to ask a couple questions about writing because I was very interested in the concept of selected writings, one of your latest projects. And so, what can writing add to photography, if it does add anything, of course?
Well, first of all, you say that I focus on writing. I think you could come up with a list of 15 things that I focus on, that I have focused on over my, since I've been taking pictures. I
Hmm.
mean, I can focus on dogs, and I can focus on, I mean, all kinds of, trees, and it's just that in particular, I always, yeah, I mean, I would see writing.
Yeah.
And I would okay, I would take a picture. Now it wasn't necessarily a good picture because it's hard to take a good picture of something static like just writing. It's when there are people there, there are things going on and so on. The writing it's writing. It's but since I had taken all those pictures, and I had already begun working, thinking about this book that I'm talking about, the future book, and I was having trouble to making decisions and so on. And so, just kind of as a way of changing my ideas, I thought well, maybe I'll take a look at all these, my pictures of writing I've taken over my career.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something in there. So and when I put them in the Magnum archive, I generally put the word sign, SIGN, at the end of the picture, just by itself. Just I don't know. I had some instinctive feeling that would be useful one day, and it turns out it was useful. So then I went through the Magnum archive and I looked for the word sign with the pictures that I had taken, and I put them all together, and there were others also that didn't have the word sign and that I remembered and so on. And I thought, yeah, actually, this holds together. So in a way, they're like the other pictures. There's the problem that I'm talking about, which is that they're kind of static, and the other problem is they often need explanation. If it's just writing on the wall that like in the Chinese or something, and you don't speak Japanese, it's just lines and so on, and so that can be interesting. But if you're Chinese, it actually means something. So if I show the pictures, and some are taken in Italy, and some are taken in Japan, and some are taken in the U.S., and some are taken in France, and I mean, there has to be some kind of explanation. So when I did Earthlings, I had very, very, very short captions. I'd say Rome, 1972, or whenever. That was it. That was the caption. I might have put in 2 extra words that were ambiguous, just to help people understand, but also confuse them. And now suddenly with this book, I had to put in real captions. I had to kind of explain what was going on. The book, which was published by an Italian publisher, was published in English and French. So I had both the French caption and the English caption. Yeah, so I had to explain the French to English speakers, and I had to explain the English to the French speakers, and I had to sometimes put it in context even for people who spoke the language, and so it went against my natural feelings, which is to be as ambiguous as possible, because it just wouldn't work. So I had to do it differently. So they're different from the other pictures, although it's the same way of looking at pictures.
Okay, and I want to actually change the question that I was about to ask you, because I think I have a more interesting one, if we can say so.
Okay. You can ask me both of them.
Yes. When is ambiguity successful in a photo?
It's successful when people look at it and think, what's going on in this picture? It looks like this, but is that really it? And when they keep on looking, that's key. Because when I was younger and I showed pictures around, people would say, "Wait a minute, what's going on in this picture?" And then I would tell them, what's going on? What was the reality that I was in when I took the picture? What was really happening then? Well, sometimes I didn't even know. I didn't understand what was really happening. But if I told them, then they stopped looking at the picture. So I realized that I better keep my mouth shut and just let them explore and be pulled in. That's what makes me feel good, when people are pulled into the picture. When there's kind of compulsion to keep on looking at it.
Okay, and just the last one, I think this is going to be short. Have you ever taken written notes or had mental notes about certain things that you wanted to see during a specific shooting day?
maybe if I were working on a professional
Mm.
assignment,
Yeah.
I'm not
Mm,
sure that I actually had notes, but I kind of understood what I was supposed to show.
Okay.
But you know,
Mm.
I mean, I like the idea of kind of not knowing
Mm.
what you're going to do.
Yeah, you let yourself be surprised. Okay. I think I'm fine with this section, so we can move to
amazing.
the next one, which is an important one.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I want to discuss a little bit about the open call, your juror position, and what you look in for a photograph. And my first question would actually be this: what do you look for in a photograph when you're judging it instead of shooting it in this case?
Well, for one thing, I have to look at the picture on its own terms because I can't expect everyone to do the same thing that I do, and I can appreciate that people do other things very well. And I don't think that I should have a prejudice against people other ways of shooting. Uh, the color, black and white, posed, not unposed. I mean, well, I do have a slight prejudice against posed, but
Well,
uh, anyway. Um, yeah, so I'm looking for something. I would be looking for something that's interesting, meaningful, even though it may not be what I would do.
okay. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
And what's one of the main, let's say, values a photographer should look for when thinking about what to submit, whether it is a series or a single photo or a couple of different photos? What would you say about it?
First of all, I think that people should submit what they really believe in. That's one thing. Uh, and I mean, I don't know what the strategy should be for winning the competition, but I'm not great at strategies of the
No,
figuring out what
sure.
I'm supposed. Um, uh, it's interesting to see more than one. I'm saying this as someone who's judging pictures. It's interesting to see more than one picture by the same person, because then you get a better idea of what they're after. So that the same picture taken by two different people, the same exact picture, in one case can work, and in another case can be totally uninteresting. Because in a certain context of someone's work. When you see a series, you can, if this is pretty advanced photographers. Uh, they have a way of seeing things that might be very interesting,
Hmm.
and your one's perception of the way of thinking comes by seeing more than one photograph. One photograph can be just a good luck or a chance, totally outside of what they're interested in. They might not even have noticed that it was a good picture, and then someone told them, "Oh, yeah, it's pretty good." So it's in a way, it would give me more information to see a picture in a context. But I think you have to have rules for submission. You can't have one person flooding
Of course, of
you know
course.
the,
Yeah,
the
there are
competition. And,
rules.
yeah.
And competition rules for sure. And one thing I wanted to ask you, in a competition in this way and in your role as a juror, do you prefer to be surprised or reassured, in the sense of, does unexpected things matter more than consistency for you as a juror, or not?
Yeah, I mean, sure, I would like to see something that excites me. That's w- uh, once again not necessarily a formal invention. A new
Hmm.
way of taking pictures. I mean, maybe that could work, but not necessarily. It's more, that I see something, yeah, maybe that I didn't expect, and that's really that uh, interests me in some way.
Yeah, you will value them more in a way.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just someone does something that everyone else does well, but that's less interesting than someone who does something really personal that not everyone else does.
Even if it's not perfect. That's I totally
Well,
agree.
yeah, you would hope that someone who's going to win the competition will do
No,
something
of
that's
course.
close to perfect. But
Yes,
Of
sure.
course.
That's totally fine. One last question, and then I'm done also myself. What's an advice that you would give to a young photographer interested in street photography today? Like, what gave you also a strong push in your early days? Which are actually two different questions, but let's merge
okay,
them.
well, all right. Well, let's start with what gave me the push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of walking around and discovering things, and then making something out of it. Making
Hmm.
so already you see something and you think about it in a photographic way, which is how can I make this into an interesting rectangle?
Hmm. I
And
love this rectangle.
yeah, but it's really true. It's
Super true.
and and that involves the choosing the moment, the choosing the distance, choosing what you're putting in the rectangle, choosing the relationship of things in the picture. All the while, it's totally unpredictable. You don't know what's happening. You don't know how people are moving in all kinds of different ways. Suddenly, someone else walks in the picture. There's a dog that came out of nowhere. Just juggling all of the totally disorganized reality and making organizing it
Hmm.
is really interesting.
Okay.
And what was the other part of the question?
The other part was, what advice would you give to someone, to a young photographer interested in street photography today?
Well, since I do a reasonable number, a reasonable number is like 2 or 3 a year of workshops.
Hmm.
I often wind up saying the same thing. The same two things.
Okay.
I say, they show me a picture. I say, how many pictures did you take here? I say, one. Okay, well, they learn. I mean, I drive it into their heads that, the chances of taking one picture and it being a good picture are very slim. That's one picture is just the beginning. That's you have to generally. I mean, maybe by miracle you got something you were just there at the right moment. Yeah, you had the luck to press on the button just when you. But generally, you start off. I was saying, you asked me how I worked earlier and what I started with, and I start with the little thing that catches my eye, and the little thing that catches my eye is not enough to make a photograph. It's enough to make me think, hmm, maybe if I went here, maybe if I looked around, and then there's the guy in the background, and it's the beginning of a process. So I think
Yeah,
a lot of young photographers don't know that, you know,
that's true.
and that's the first thing. And then of course there's the old advice from Kappa, but probably from everyone else. Um, uh, you should get closer.
Closer. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you should get further away, obviously, but
the
you
closer
should
you go.
consider. I mean, since we talk about rectangles,
Hmm.
you want to fill your rectangle.
Hmm.
If you just have a little thing right in the center and everything else is,
Empty.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And Richard, thank you.
Thank
Honestly,
Okay.
it's been an
Thanks very
honor
much.
Yeah,
for us.
it's been an
Okay.
honor having you. And to everyone, thanks for watching. And keep supporting us, keep supporting independent street photography, keep following us, keep subscribing, because what's just one small click to you means the world for us. And thank you again, Richard, for being with us today, for playing with us, and in general, for being. So thank
Uh,
you. Thank you
it
very
was a
much.
pleasure.
Oh, Richard.
Thank
Thank
you.
thank you.